Hello, everyone. It's currently the 13th of November, coming up to 2 weeks after the election, and Donald Trump has claimed in an interview with the Washington Examiner that in a timeline of only 2 to 3 weeks, he is going to win the US presidential election 2020 after a grand legal battle, the legal battle to end all legal battles. This is, of course, going to shock the Democrat establishment. Have moved on quite prematurely indeed, as we well know, but also quite a few Trump fans, of who I know some are beginning to waver a bit, but don't worry, we've got just the medicine for you. But of course, it's quite obvious that it's going to end this way. We've seen so many instances of electoral fraud, Dominion voting machines changing votes, really incredible stuff that we've never, ever seen before. So in today's video, we're going to outline Trump's legal path to victory. We're going to be examining the legal challenges in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, Nevada, and Wisconsin. Of course, the key battleground states and the focus of the Democrats' dirty tricks to try and win this extremely close election. So this way, if you're listening and you're a Democrat, you'll be nice and prepared in your safe space with your soya latte for when Donald Trump wins his second term. And if you're a Republican, well, we're going to be spoiling a nice surprise indeed for you. But I think you'll appreciate it nonetheless. You're watching Political. My name's Connor Allen. I'm here at the Iron Smith, and thank you so much to everyone for your support. Please do consider subscribing if you want to support us, like if you like the content, and leave a comment and tell us your opinion. But the best thing you can do, as always, is to share this where you think it will be useful. But moving on ahead with the video, we're first going to be looking at Trump's interview with the Washington Examiner, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. So he had a exclusive interview with the Washington Examiner. He's not really spoken much. Like, he did that press conference a number of days ago where he kind of said, you know, listen, there's loads of fraud and all of this, but he's not really kind of like spoken about things. It's hard to kind of gauge the mindset of Trump. He seems very confident, but it's hard to gauge the mindset of, you know, how does he actually think his case is going to go and what's going to happen. So this interview was very insightful in that regard. So I'll just quickly run through what he said. He says, we're going to win Wisconsin. He didn't elaborate from there, but he says, we're going to win Wisconsin. Arizona, it'll be down to 8,000 votes. And if we can do an audit of the millions of votes, we'll find 8,000 votes easily. And if we can do an audit, we'll be in good shape there. He says, Georgia, we're going to win because now we're down to about 10,000, 11,000 votes. And we have hand counting. Hand counting is the best. To do a spin of the machine doesn't mean anything. You can pick up 10 votes. But when you hand count, I think we're going to win Georgia. He'll also win North Carolina unless they happen to find a lot of votes. When are they going to put out new votes in North Carolina? When are they going to find a new batch from Charlotte? And then finally, Michigan and Pennsylvania, the two big states. They're all sort of big, Trump says. He says they wouldn't let our poll watchers and observers watch or observe. That's a big thing. They should throw those votes out that went through during those periods of time when observers weren't there. We went to the court and the judge ordered the observers back, but that was after 2 days and millions of votes could have gone through. Millions, and we're down to 50,000. So it seems that he's relying on recounts quite a considerable amount, which, you know, if there is fraud, then you are going to find them with hand recounts. But when he asks when he thinks he's going to win, he says, I don't know, probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So very optimistic view from Trump. You know, for those that are probably expecting this prolonged legal battle, he thinks in 2 or 3 weeks he's going to win. So, in terms of his route to victory, then, as he said in North Carolina, probably going to win that. I feel like most people probably say he's safely going to win that. He is ahead there by 70 or so thousand votes. It seems unlikely to be Biden will be able to catch up. In Georgia, he is behind 15,000, but if he's going to, but obviously they're going to do recount there, but if he's going to win, he basically needs Georgia and Arizona, the two closest states. If he gets Wisconsin on top of that, it would actually be putting him up to 269, which would be a draw, an electoral college draw. Then it would go to the state legislators, of which the Republicans actually control more. So whether or not they would they go ahead and vote him through, I don't know, because he may have some Republicans who are Republicans in name only, as they say. And if he wins Michigan and Pennsylvania on top of those two states in Arizona and Georgia, then he wins outright, and we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we expect to see fraud in a significant fraud in Georgia and Arizona. We could probably see it throughout the rest of the country too, because this is what kind of the claims are about, right? In Dominion voting machines and such forth. What do you think the states are with the best chances of getting this through are? I mean, in terms of the strength of the legal cases, what do you think are perhaps the keys to victory, the ones we really need to be picking up?
Well, as I said, if there is a significant amount of fraud, then you're probably going to pick that up in the hand counts. In terms of how close they are, Georgia's down to about 14,000 or so. So that's the closest. Is it the closest? Yeah, well, Arizona and Georgia will be the closest. So looking at Georgia, they've already ordered there that they said that they're going to do the hand recount. Now, obviously, we heard about what happened with that pipe leak that stopped them from counting. And then we've since learned then that was actually basically a lie, or massively over-exaggerated. So then the question becomes, well, why would they lie about that to stop counting the votes? It doesn't really make any sense. So maybe that will get shown up in a hand recount. If there is, why would they lie about that? Maybe they're committing fraud. If they are committing fraud, hopefully that shows up in a hand recount. So Georgia really is the first hurdle that he needs to overcome. It's 16 electoral votes, so it is massive. Without it, he'd basically need to be sweeping all of these states up in the north, where it has been close. So Georgia, that's the significant one, which hopefully will show up in the hand recount. In Arizona, again, they've just done their own audit there, but all they do is they just look at like 5 precincts, and they go, no, we've audited ourselves and we've discovered that that we did a great job. I think they found like 2 votes or something where they said that were dodgy out of over 10,000. Obviously, though, if there has been some significant fraud, they're going to need to do a full audit of all the votes. Trump's brought through, or his campaign has brought through a court case there. They're saying that poll workers were encouraging people who turned up to vote on election day to press like a green button on the voting machine. And what that actually does is it disqualifies the votes. So his hope there is to basically provide enough evidence to get essentially a judge to order a recount for the whole state. And if there is fraud, hopefully they'll find it with the hand recount there. Those 2 states, in Arizona, 8,000, and in Georgia, like probably going to be about 17,000 or something like that. Those are within reach potentially because they're quite close that you could flip them with hand recounts.
Think of a pun involving either the desert or a leaky pipe, but my mind went blank. So if anyone has any suggestions about good puns I could have inserted there, tell me down in the comments below. But what about the Rust Belt, yeah?
Yeah, so again, of the 3 in the Rust Belt, the most likely one that he might be able to do something with is Wisconsin. Essentially, in Wisconsin, if it's within 0.5%, that automatically triggers a recount. I think it's just outside of that margin. So the only way in which a recount can be done now is if they pay for one, which I know sounds ridiculous, but there is a Wisconsin law that says a candidate, if they have the money, which I think it would be $2 or $3 million, they can order a recount. And I think there's some people. There's a woman I think that's trying to stop that from happening. She says it's going to sow discontent. I imagine that will be thrown away. I mean that's just an ordinary citizen that's just doing that as well, bringing a lawsuit to the federal court in New York, I think. So if Trump wants a recount there and they're willing to pay for it, then they should get one, basically. And he said he seemed quite confident about Wisconsin. It was the first one that he mentioned. So we'll see. But again, it's that hand recount. If there is fraud, they'll see it in the hand recount. And then finally, the last 2, Michigan, Pennsylvania. This is where you've got all of these affidavits and sworn testimonies from people who are saying that all of this weird stuff happened. And in Michigan, like it's a big margin. It's 3% that Biden has supposedly won by there. It's like 140 odd thousand votes, 150 odd thousand votes that he needs to find there. So he's going to need like a significant amount thrown out. But in terms of the sort of legal battles, they're saying again that they weren't allowed to observe, so they're looking to throw out votes there. Michigan is one of those places where we've seen all this stuff about, dead people registering to vote or whatever and all this kind of thing. It could be that there is substantial amount of fraud there, but 150,000 votes seems like a significant amount. So I mean, it might be it's going to be quite difficult for him to do anything there. But again, their hope is that with all of these affidavits that they're sending to the court, that a judge there might at least order a kind of a hand recount. But at this kind of margin, I think seems unlikely. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. Pennsylvania is only down to 60,000 votes. I think they've got a few more to count there, and it could go up to sort of 70 or 80,000 lead. But they have just won that court case where they basically said that they can't. They extended the period of time that voters with voter ID that had to provide voter ID for their provisional ballot, that got cut off now. So that will get rid of a few votes, but not that many. The big case that they need to win, really, there are bigger cases, but one of the big cases that they need to win that they have a chance in is the deadline. They extended the deadline by 3 days that they could receive votes. Those ballots have been put aside, and I believe there was only about 10,000 ballots, though, that were received after Election Day. But that's still 10,000 off. You would imagine that the vast majority of them are going to be for Biden. And really, again, they're saying in Pennsylvania that they've not been able to observe the votes. And again, they've got all of these sworn testimonies of people saying that they saw various different amounts of fraud. So his best hope there, again, is provide all that evidence with all of the affidavits and hope that a judge will essentially order a recount there of some fashion. And if they do a hand recount and really audit every single ballot, if what they're saying are true and these allegations are true, then that will be enough, probably, to swing that state, because it's only going to be sort of like 50 or so thousand votes at that point in time. So just to kind of clarify, I would say his best chance would be Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin, which would be a draw. And then after that, it would be Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania, in which he wins outright. I think Michigan seems like it would be out of reach at this moment in time, though. But we've already got the hand recount in Georgia, so that's really the one that everyone needs to be putting and focusing all their attention on, seeing the results that come out from that hand recount, which is probably going to take a couple of weeks.
Okay, so Yayan, of course, a polling expert and now apparently a legal expert, because he's given us a very detailed breakdown for that, so thank you for that. Of course, one of the things I'm quite concerned about is, at this point, do we even accept the legal system? I don't say we as in Republicans, because of course we do, but in terms of the establishment, when you're looking at the media and the establishment, they've moved it on already. They're terrified of these legal cases coming to fruition. And we've seen, Yayan's just provided us with an overview. A lot of these have a very good chance of getting through. But can you imagine if right now they're trying to move the election on, what's going to happen in 3 weeks? The Democrats aren't just simply going to accept someone who they consider worse than Hitler returning to office in 3 weeks' time, when they've already had all their celebrations. They've had their soy parties, they've had whatever. It's going to spark violence. I think it will actually spark quite a lot of violence. But we do need to guarantee the integrity of the system. We need to look at all these cases of voter fraud. And if we do, and the Dems still come out ahead, then good for them. There's no Republican going to be able to deny Biden's presidency in the same way the Democrats did to Donald Trump. And so thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope you found that video informative. Please do let us know in the comments if you did, or let us know in the comments if you disagree at any point. Again, like and subscribe, and do share the video if you found it very informative. Thanks so much for listening.